Engage is using a proactive engagement model to persuade leaders in office and to hold them accountable. But at its core, our strategy is to empower you and our communities. We do this through 4 programs. Our voter engagement program aims to make sure you and your community are educated about the political process, engaging with your elected officials and going to the polls informed. By collecting data on the number of people, we've been able to mobilize how and where they vote, and by polling, we convince elected officials that our issues matter to the public. Through leadership training, we take young people and give them the skills to work on campaigns, run for office, and advocate for the issues important to your community. We encourage our community to get involved by supporting and campaigning for candidates who share your public policy goals. Engage has tried and tested this model over the last 10 years. Through advocacy and voter engagement, we've swung close elections, defeated Islamophobic candidates, defeated discriminatory legislation, and we've gotten our community a seat at the table. Our goal is to take this model and expand, especially to more swing states where we can have the most impact. And to do that, we need your participation and investment. There's a lot at stake in the future, and the challenges are great, but together we can ensure our rights are protected and our voices are heard. We need concerned citizens like yourself to get involved. Joining our membership circle is one easy way to support all of the important work you've heard about. Our goal is to have 100,000 members across the country who are engaged and advocating for the issues that are important to us. Become a part of our movement by clicking this link and go to engageaction.org/membership. You can also find us on social media. Come join us today.
That was a little information about what Engage is about, and we hope to, by the end of the evening, you will hear from our national level, from our state level, and from our local level what Engage has planned for this year, and how you can get involved, especially with this 2020 election. So before we move on to that, I would really like to, first of all, thank all of the volunteers that really helped put this together. This was not a solo project, it was a lot of teamwork. So firstly, I'd like to introduce our Engage Tampa network. So let me have those in the room, please stand. So I don't know if Sol is here. Soleimani, Muhammad Mubarak, please stand. Sandra Siddiqui, as well, and Christine Nancy. So this is your Engage Tampa network. If you and myself, you've been all upset. So this was a team effort. So it took a lot of planning from the local level, from the state level, which you'll hear from some of our Engage State of Florida people, as well as from the national level. So this is our first attempt at relaunching in Tampa, and we really hope that we continue to have the community support for events coming forward. I'd also like to thank some of the volunteers that were really helpful today in putting this all together. So all of our student volunteers, Inaya Feroz, Jabran Beg, Maria Feroz, Samir Beg, Zaina Sayed, Ira Ali, Inshara Ali, Sania Munir, Zarina Munir, Mariam Feroz, all of that, thank you so much. Thank Khan for his tilawat and recitation. And our other not student volunteers, but that were really instrumental in putting this together, Zara Nancy, who did the beautiful centerpieces, Samina Razal, and Vera Nancy, who really helped staff in the background as well. So thank you so much for all of your help and support. So why are we here tonight? What brought you here? So in the I-4 corridor alone, there are 64,000 registered Muslim voters, and 3,000 are unregistered. So as we all know, in the state of Florida, elections have been very close. Just in the gubernatorial election in 2018, Andrew Gillum lost by only 32,000 votes. You can imagine, our community, had they turned out, in stronger numbers just between Orlando and here could have really made an impact in just that election alone. So here to speak more about the importance of using our collective voice on a national level is our CEO, Wael Al-Zayed. So let me give a little bit of a background. So Wael has previously served with distinction as a U.S. Middle East policy expert at the U.S. Department of State for 10 years, including as senior policy advisor to the U.S. Ambassador of the UN, Samantha Power, Syria Outreach Coordinator and Ambassador Robert Ford, and Special Assistance to the U.S. Ambassador to Iraq, James Jeffrey. Wael has long been a passionate advocate for protecting fundamental American values and freedoms and increasing the civic engagement of minority communities. Wael was recently named the top 10 inspiring American leaders by the Huffington Post, and he is also a senior fellow at the Middle East Institute.
Assalamu alaikum. I'm not going to stand back there. I think I was named by groups of people who Huffington Post reported on it in 2017. So I've been superseded by much more talented and better working people, I'm sure. Thank you so much for coming. 3 years ago, I was a U.S. diplomat in a career that I absolutely love. As a first generation Muslim American, Syrian American, I had really made it. I was representing the country that I love abroad, working on issues that I cared about, like the U.S. foreign policy and conflicts in the Middle East, whether it was Syria, Iraq, relationships with Turkey, Jordan, Lebanon. That's what I loved. That's what I wanted to do. But I left it. I walked away because our own house was burning. Irrespective of who won that election, how they won that election was the problem. By demonizing and scapegoating people like us, minorities. By seeking to redefine yet again what being American was. That's not an idea, but it's a particular religion or a skin color. If that takes hold, the American project is over, I can assure you. It's that ideal that drove my family to immigrate in 1988 from Damascus, Syria, to San Jose, California. And it's that ideal that allowed me to feel that I could perhaps become a U.S. diplomat. Without it, I wouldn't have even tried. And ironically, even though I worked on sensitive national security issues and had top clearance, I am exactly the person who is now banned from coming here. Syrian, Muslim, male. I don't get a visa to come here. There's no way. Engage seeks to be part of the solution to put this country back on that track that it was on. Imperfect, but we're always aspiring to be better. The organization began in 2016. I never heard of it before. Maybe some of you have never heard of it before, even till now. But when I came across it, when I was looking for my next thing to do in 2016, I was blown away by how dead set and focused they were on effecting change politically. Voting, issues, candidates. That's what Engage does. There's a lot of great organization out there, and my job as the CEO is to communicate to you what Engage is and what it's not. We are not a civil liberties organization. We are not a protest movement. We are not a lot of things. But what we are is politics. We look to empower Muslim Americans so they could represent the issues that we care about as both Muslim and American. And make sure that whatever policies are being implemented represent our goals. Doesn't have to be everything that we want, but some of it. And certainly, we cannot have it be done in a way to undermine us and our identity and to question our patriotism. Voting. We conduct get out the vote campaigns. That's door knocking and phone banking and texting. We recruit volunteers to do that work. We work in partnership with other organizations and communities. In 2018, we engaged with over 135,000 Muslim households in 5 states. This year, and thanks to a $1 million grant from the Open Society Foundation that we just received, we're going to scale it up across the country. We're going to be engaging with other communities from Southern California to New York to conduct data-driven phone banking and canvassing operations with other communities as well. And we believe that this year, Engage will help turn out 1 million Muslim voters. And I know people say, well, we've heard about this million and all that stuff. In Florida alone, there are at least 110,000 registered Muslim voters right now. When was the last time your election year was determined by 110,000 voters or votes? How about 1,000? Okay. Michigan, over 120. Florida, Virginia, same thing. Texas, same thing. California may have 500,000 Muslims in it right now, as we speak. New York, 1/10 of its population might be Muslim. When you add these states, just the basic states that I just mentioned, and then you want to add Ohio, Illinois, Wisconsin, and Pennsylvania, and yes, we're intentional about where we are, that million number becomes very, very possible. In 2018, we produced a report on just 4 states, and we looked at how Muslims voted in Ohio, Pennsylvania, Virginia, and Florida. We found that Muslims voted in the midterm elections of 2018 at twice the rate that they did in 2014 after they were engaged. We believe that just a 10% increase in how Muslims vote in any of these swing states will make a difference. I'll give you a case in point. In Michigan, it was determined by 10,000 votes in 2016, right? In one county alone, Wayne County, Michigan. By the way, that's the county where the Russians tried to suppress the black vote, FYI, and they did. In Wayne County, Michigan, there are 68,000 registered Muslim voters today. 10,000? 68,000. Only by getting out the vote and engage, and I will assure you of this, is the only data-driven, GeoTV-focused organization in our community that does it in a scientific way. We're not going to call people randomly. We have access to the Muslim voter files. Don't be scared. It's public, by the way. For all 50 states. And we base our work on that. Only by turning out the vote and supporting candidates in a smart way can you actually walk into their office and ask them to support you on issues that are difficult. Our issues are difficult. They're not easy. We're not asking for like a street sign to be named. We're asking to liberate Palestine and Kashmir and end hate crimes and Islamophobia. Oh, and also reduce gun violence and improve healthcare and access to education because we care about those things. Those are difficult. And if you think we can do it as a one-off contribution or a Facebook posting, we're going to be at this for a very long time. So we connected the votes, and yes, we have a political action committee. I know this is not a partisan event, but Engage is the only national network of Muslim Americans who support candidates. Local, state, federal, we have a questionnaire, we vet them, we interview them, we do polling, we do surveys, and then we decide, and then maybe we will support them. They don't have to be Muslim, but if you're a Muslim running and you have a good shot, or it's good to just support you because you have potential, we're going to support you. But we are interested in any decent human being who wants to run and who supports a pluralistic America. That's what Engage does. We turn out the vote, we advocate on the issues, and then we support candidates. And this year, We're dead serious about this million number. We're launching this campaign, Million Muslim Votes campaign. The website will go up in exactly 4 weeks. We're launching it, and I'm going to be traveling the country to sign up other partners and other organizations. But we're going to tell the media about it, the political establishment. Everyone is going to know about this. So when you read it, remember this conversation, and I'm going to need you to support it. We're going to need you to support it. So when we send you a text and say, hey, don't forget, you got to vote. Tell your neighbors, tell your friends. When the folks here in Tampa say, guys, we need to hire an organizer. That's what it's going to be for. It's not to go and hold a sign somewhere. It's to actually knock on people's doors and get them out to vote in a meaningful way, and finally earn the respect of elected officials, of the media, of the public. There are so many wonderful stories I can share with you about what we've been able to accomplish the last few years. For example, for this model, the state of Virginia right now has the highest Muslim voter turnout. It's at around 70%. It used to be below 50%. We were able to introduce legislation on behalf of the Rohingya. We were able to pass the Senate, the House, a Uyghur human rights bill that seeks to end the genocide that's happening there. We are advocating to restore the funding to UNRWA, the UN aid agency. We are working to protect our children here from gun violence by advocating with lawmakers and partnerships with others to find a pathway for citizenship for DACA recipients. The list goes on. But if you want a real political organization that restores our honor in this country, we are part of that solution. The elected officials should never think that they can win by demonizing us. We can disagree on policy. That's fine. In fact, that's the American way. But not to say, ooh, they are the enemy, they are the problem, let's send them back to where they came from. Each one of you here is as American as anyone else. We all contribute. We must get this country back on track. So please show support to the team here that is taking a lot of their time and energy. Let's help them find 1 or 2 good organizers to join my national network, to turn out to vote, and to build something very special here. Florida and Michigan are our top priority this year. And actually, it's really every year. But don't tell that to the other states we work in. So thank you so much for having me. I look forward to meeting you all. Text. Yes, text. You all have your cell phones? Okay, my comms team will kill me. I almost forgot this. All right. I would like you all to text the word voting to, this is good, 52886. Voting 52886. 52886. What that's going to do, yes, it's going to put you on my mailer, but here's what we're going to do with it. I'm not sending it to the FBI or DHS. What I'm going to do, I'm going to send you reminders about our civic engagement activities. And also, once we launch this Million Votes campaign, to let you know how you can help. And when we do advocate on issues that are important to you, to let you know what we're doing and how you can contact your elected officials or join us when we meet them. And also, if you wish, if you'd like to join our PAC, we will send you information about meeting officials and holding them accountable and investing in real friends of this community at the local, national, and national level. Is that good? Did I do my homework? Okay, good. Thank you so much. I'm going to go get some more food because that was amazing.
Thank you, Lyle. Next, we have our Executive Director of Florida, Vedna Yemen Monisar. So Vedna has been a community leader in Florida for over 14 years, guiding electoral and legislative efforts throughout all fields of government. Yemen's hard work has earned her the position as state director, the first Muslim woman state director for a presidential campaign in the history of the U.S. when she worked on the Hillary Clinton campaign. She focused on organizing the Muslim community in the state of Florida, collaborating on various philanthropic boards, and serving as a senior advisor for the Middle Eastern and Asian embassies. So, yes.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Oh, I'm sorry, I just dropped the mic real quick. So I'd like to thank you all for coming. It is an honor and blessing to work for a community that I love dearly. I would like to thank Brother Khizr Khan, our champion, for coming and supporting our efforts and been traveling for days, helping us to do this campaign for Florida. Thank you. I would like to give a shout out to the team, our chair, our friends, our family, our elected officials that are here. I would like to give you a warm welcome again to you all for coming. Everyone here is an influencer, a provider to the community. The only way we can landscape change is if we enter the political arena. And that shows that we're sophisticated, civically, and politically. And because the only way to change is to be a part of a system that influences reform and change in itself. As we continue these efforts across the state, forward to shape a culture of engagement and civil activism among a community that is frequently the subject of prejudice and infrequently called upon to share their side with participation, we hope to empower a minority community that engage diplomatically for a betterment for their local communities. But as America as a whole. But how do we do that? We get out to vote. We support the right candidates. We advocate on issues that are important to the American Muslim community. Engage stands for you. Engage is the voice against oppression. We advocate for local and nationally, from the new Muslim ban to the Uyghurs to Kashmir to Yemen to Syria. And unfortunately, the troubled time did not serve as a moment for despair, but also a moment for change. We are Americans. And as Americans, we share something that's common, that people all over the world are currently trying to cross borders to gain. Freedom, opportunity, the freedom and opportunity comes as a price. It means that you are responsible to me as I have responsibility to you. And because not only is that a principle of being American, but a decree of human foremost. What goes against minorities is only insulting and taking away from us as Americans. To me, America is just not a name of a country. No, it used to be ideal, a path for dreamers and those who worked hard. It used to be helping countries rebuild, as we did Europe post-World War II. Now we're drawing from Syria, Yemen, Palestine, Iraq, and Kashmir. Expanding rights to vote and not gerrymandering. Expanding rights to vote and ensuring safe food and drinking water and not fracking. Protecting the environment and not denying it. And ultimately using to champion immigrants and not turning its back on the same foundation that make this country so distinct and prominent. This year, the poll shows that American Muslim community did not let their circumstances stand as an excuse to build walls of division. We made it an impulsive greater communal activism because not only is the principle of being American, but the decree of being human first. We saw that American Muslims chose to have a significant step forward in the field of civil rights by voting 75% to pass Amendment 4.
All right, now.
And restoring rights. And restoring rights to formerly incarcerated people, that is our people, Muslim people, the American Muslims who are incarcerated. We are proud of the Muslim community for having been involved in a great effort, following those footsteps of the great Muslim civil rights activists like Malcolm X.
All right.
So I'm here to tell you this. The spotlight is on us and we need to rise to the occasion. If we sit back and doubt question, if we could really make a difference with these numbers, we let hesitation dedicate to regret for our future. Delay is depriving us the wrong answer. I come to you as a Muslim community with a plea to the threat of the needle and waiving our contributions to this community. We cannot fear by being noticed. Retreating Islamophobia will only continue victimization. Let us proliferate walls of division, but instead make an impulse of continued communal engagement. But it's our duty to past generations who came with a few dollars in their hands to give their humble was task before us and their offspring a chance of a land of opportunity. Their endeavors did not end with them. It began, and now we're here. It is incumbent to seize the moment, to be citizens and establish a new foundation of growth, politically and civically. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Yemen. So, and lastly, we're going to bring it local. So we've gone from national to our state director, Yemen, and now local. So Saima's going to speak on behalf of our Tampa network. She didn't give me a bio, so I pulled what I had. So Saima Siddiqui works as a risk management professional at a leading professional services firm with over 20 years of experience in the field of accounting and risk management. She has a passion for humanitarian causes, in particular women's issues, and brings many years of experience having served on boards of not-for-profits. So, and as we all know, she's very passionate about why we need to be civically engaged. So I think she's the perfect person to give our pitch for Tampa and talk to you and motivate all of you how you can get involved on a local level.
Thanks to Weil for coming in from DC. Thanks to Yemen for coming in from Orlando. I really wanted you guys to hear from them because I think for a while now I've been telling you things about Engage. And I think it was time that you heard firsthand what their mission is, what their plans are, what we can accomplish for 2020. That being said, the first thing I want to do after that is thank every one of you who is here today. I know that there were other places you guys could have been, doing something else, but here you are. So I am extremely grateful and I am extremely appreciative of you having given us your time. You know, there are friends of mine who ask me, why do I do this? Why do I volunteer my time with such organizations? Some may even say, well, aren't there better things to do? We are all so busy living our lives, taking care of our kids, going to work. That just seems so important. And some of us are busy with other things, right? But I thought about this as I was thinking what I was going to say to you as I stepped up on stage here. And I said, okay, well, you know, why do I do this? I want to share that with all of you. And it didn't take very long, and it wasn't a very complicated answer. It was very simple, and I shared this with friends of mine who were sitting in the room. We've had conversations. I do this for my children. You know, like many of you, I was lulled into a sense of complacency. I thought if I took care of myself, I took care of my family, I paid my taxes, I showed up for presidential election cycles, I was doing good. And if I did that, everything would be just fine. And I did function like that for many years, and things were fine. But then, a few years ago, like you all, I watched as racism and bigotry, including calling into question the patriotism of people like you and I sitting in this room, American Muslims, became the cornerstone of political campaigning to win votes. And I saw what it was doing to all of us. I could see what it was doing to my children. I can remember the effect it had on my son. November 9, 2016, when he learned that you could denigrate an entire class of American communities, including, you could call for the ban of an entire religion, and you could win the highest office in this land. It was personal for him when I told him, and I could see it in his face, and it just broke my heart. And I know it broke a lot of people's heart in this room, right? But to watch our children, for that to happen to them, for them to feel that they don't belong, and that there are people in this country who think they don't belong, and that candidate has won. It was just heartbreaking. So, what I would then say, I guess I've been jolted out of my sense of complacency, for sure, that happened. And then I thought, I'm no longer able to measure my life in terms of how well I do materially, or whatever metric is sufficient before this happened. It was sort of a seminal moment for me. It changed things. It opened my eyes.
Good.
And then, I know, we are all extremely blessed. We all will do well for ourselves. We will leave our children well taken care of. But then, sit back and think, what good is that if they can grow up strong and proud in their Muslim identity in America? What good is that if they don't know that their patriotism, their commitment to this country will not be called into question? Someone's affluence, or perhaps my own indifference, that's not going to stop them. That's not going to protect them from being bullied at school or being called names because of who they are, the God they worship, or the color of their skin. And this is just about basic fairness, right? This is about justice. This is about American ideals. And when I say this, and I had said this before when we started this event, this is a non-partisan event, so I'm not sitting here saying you have to be for one political ideology or another, that this fiscal policy and tax policy is better or not. I'm simply saying we should be free as American Muslims to pick a party or an ideology, but do we have to do it at the expense of our integrity and our commitment and our patriotism being called into question? Do I have to give that up for a tax break? Why does it have to be that way? So, because we don't fit the idea of what a Muslim, of an American ideal is in someone else's mind. That isn't right. And I don't know about you, but I'm so tired, and I don't see it ending, unfortunately, anytime soon, but I'm so tired of politicians taking shots at Muslim Americans at any given moment, and they pay no price for it. They pay no price for it because the people who agree with such mischaracterizations of American Muslims organize better than we do, and they vote in larger numbers than we do. It's plain and simple. So, I shared this with you, right? This is why I do what I do. Couldn't be more clear. It's pretty straightforward. There's no nuance to it. But that being said, I know that I alone, and some of you were in the room upstairs when Mr. Khan talked about a bird with water in its beak going back and forth to put out a forest fire alone. So I know I'm doing my part and I sleep well at night. Well, not exactly. I'm still worried about 2020. But I know that I alone am not going to make the difference. I know that I alone am not going to shift the Muslim narrative in America. I need you guys. I need you guys so that we can all organize. We can all engage in our democracy. We can all be engaged citizens. Because without that, I will do my part, he will do his part, she will do their part, but we won't move the needle. And we need to move the needle. We're not talking about overnight change, but we're talking about change. And so, it's something that's worth fighting for. I started my discussion with you about why I do this, and it's really there. It's worth fighting for our children. It's worth fighting for other children. It's worth fighting for the people who don't have a voice. And it's going to take all of us. So, for those of you in the room, I may be speaking to the choir already, but for those who still are wondering and looking and thinking about it, register to vote, get your friends to register to vote, volunteer, turn up, show up, Support those who, if you can't, then support those who can. Because without that, we're going to be where we were in 2016. And it's not about one party or another. It's just about sending a message that we can't be taken for granted and we are not political casualties every single time. There is a price to pay, so show up. Right. And people will get that message. So, that being said, I think it won't come as a shock to anybody as to who we picked to be our guest to give our keynote address for this evening. He is someone who gives me hope personally. He's someone who gives me hope to do better, to do more, who inspires us all. He's an American hero. And he gives a voice to the voiceless, but he gave a voice to all of us at a time when we all desperately needed it. He spoke up on our behalf, and it was something at that time. So I'm extremely pleased and honored to have amongst us Mr. Fiza Khan, who, other than being an inspiration to me personally and to others in this room, he is many other things. So I'm just going to run down a list of those before I invite him, and I know I'm standing between you and him, and I can't wait for you to hear him speak. He is a constitutional rights advocate, a national unity advocate. He migrated to the United States from Pakistan in 1980, and he attended Harvard Law. Most of you also know that Mr. Fiza Khan and his wife, Mrs. Fazala Khan, are Gold Star parents of late U.S. Captain Humayun Khan, who was posthumously awarded the Purple Heart and Bronze Star for his bravery. Mr. Fiza Khan is the author of several books, and the New York Times, in the review of one of his books, An American Family, Hope and Sacrifice, said, "This can teach all of us what real American patriotism looks like." The late U.S. Senator John McCain said of him and his wife that they represent the best amongst us. In what I know of him and in the brief interactions I've had with him, I found him to be a person who's worthy of our deep gratitude. He loves this country deeply, and he puts himself out there, and he has become an advocate for unity and a return to civility in this country. We owe him a debt of gratitude. He is a treasure. We're so grateful to have him here with us today, so please, please join me in welcoming Mr. Fiza Khan.
I am so honored, so very much honored to be standing. So very much honored to be standing before you. Thank you. First, I want to express my sincere gratitude towards the veterans and their families among us, families of men and women serving, families of members of law enforcement, members of our intelligence, our national security. Thank you for your service. Thank you for keeping us safe. I am honored to be standing in front of our elected officials and chairwomen for leading us and guiding us in the right direction. We last week commemorated Martin Luther King Day. I want to share a very appropriate reminder that he left us with that applies to all of us even today. He says that The ultimate measure of a man is not where he stands in moment of comfort and convenience, but where he stands at time of challenge and controversy. This is the moment of challenge and controversy. As a Muslim American, as a patriot Muslim American, allow me to share very briefly my love affair with the Constitution of the United States. I was second-year law student in Pakistan in 1972. That's when I read Declaration of Independence of the United States. It has, then I did not, but now I have, it has 1,472 words. 18 grievances listed against the king by the forefathers of this nation, my nation. Among those 18 grievances, grievance number 7, I implore all of you, and the reason I say these things because among us are our future leaders, our youth, our next generation among us. I want you to read the Declaration of Independence first. Among 18 grievances, grievance number 7, the forefathers of this nation, of my nation, complained that king is not allowing us to have sufficient immigration because immigrants make this nation prosperous. That is the heritage. Sometimes I get asked, why do you have such a love affair with the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution and Bill of Rights? My first question is, have you read it before you ask me that question? Go read it and pay attention to grievance number 7 in the Declaration, then come back and talk to me about the immigration. Forefathers have declared that immigrants make this nation great, make this nation prosperous. Then I read the articles. Article 1, yes, Article 1, our Congress. Then Article 2, the presidency. Then Article 3, the judiciary. Why Article 1, first Congress? Because the power of checks and balances lies in Congress. I wish our president would have read Article 1 before he declared himself Article 2 president. He can do anything he wants. He would have never dared to say that if he would have read Article 1 first. And the reason as I mentioned, I repeat myself ad nauseum, because our future leaders are among us. I want them to be so proud of this document. This is not the perfect place, perfect system, but it is the best among the systems. I have done that exercise. I have done the exercise of comparing our Constitution, our Bill of Rights. I don't call it Bill of Rights, I call it enshrine, in which our human dignities are enshrined. First Amendment, read the First Amendment. To the Muslims in the gathering, I say there is a concept in the jurisprudence of Islam which is called, there is no compulsion in religion, la ikrah fi deen. Read First Amendment and you will see the reflection, you will see the fragrance of la ikrah fi deen in the First Amendment. Why wouldn't I love this Constitution? Why wouldn't I stand for it? Why wouldn't I defend it? Because I see the fragrance of the 1,400 years old jurisprudence in these concepts that are enshrined in our Constitution, in our Bill of Rights. I want to share something that is, as Virginian, is very personal to me. And that is when I migrated to the United States and I read the Constitution one more time. I became aware of Virginia Statute for Religious Freedom. Guess what year it was enacted? 1786. It's worth reminding today to every American, that is your heritage. How dare you declare Muslim ban and travel ban? That is unconstitutional, that is illegal, that is un-American. When in 2017 travel ban, Muslim ban was declared, I am one of the persons, individual that filed the brief in the Supreme Court of the United States against the travel ban. To my disappointment, we were not successful. But what is happening today is that this administration has announced that they are going to expand travel ban. They will include more countries in it. There is something else that concerns me, and I'll mention why. I will explain further why am I narrating all this, not to worry you, but to make you realize the challenges. It has been reported that Trump administration, there is a group in Trump administration that is considering that children of the green card holders should not be granted U.S. citizenship, even if they are born here. Some have gone that far that the citizenship, all Muslims should be revoked. It is a moment of concern. Let me share something that will put this concern in context. In 1857, this Supreme Court of the United States in 1857 ruled in Dred Scott decision that a former slave, Dred Scott, was not an equal citizen.
Think about that.
History of violating the basic human dignity. Then in 1882, Chinese Exclusion Act was enacted. Chinese that have come here to do the labor, to do the hard work, build the railroad and our roads ought to be thrown out from here. That was 1882. Then Japanese American Internment Executive Order of 1942. Sons, fathers, husbands were fighting with the United States Army in Europe, with the US Army, and their children, their families, their mothers, their daughters, their sons and wives were put in internment camps in the United States. Catholic Americans in the United States were declared spies of Pope. Irish American, I have seen those signs now in the museum, thank God, which says Irish need not apply. The only job Irish American could find during those days were janitorial work. Jewish American suffered the same difficulty, could not gain entry into the United States. Then comes 2017 and travel ban is announced. Muslims are the focus of that ban. What did these communities do? This is what these communities do, because that is where the solution lies, and that is where the call for every Muslim lies. That when Irish Americans were facing that discrimination, they decided to unite. They decided to come together. Within 30 years of those signs being on the street where the sign said Irish need not apply, within 30 years of organizing and of course many other factors, they were able to elect first Irish American President of the United States, John F. Kennedy. This is what political organizations can do. Coming to the moment and work of Engage and its wonderful leaders among us, national, state, and local leaders. I was visiting in the office of a senator. They were discussing of legislation about anti-Muslim ban act in the Congress. And in the conversation, during the conversation, they mentioned when the Uyghur Muslim Human Rights Policy Act of 2019 was passed. They mentioned a name that sounds so familiar, that Engage did wonderful work in that legislation. Thank you. If, when you hear about Uyghurs in China, when it bothers your heart, you want to do something. When you hear the difficulty and misery of Rohingya Muslims and it bothers your heart, and you wish to do and you want to do something. When you watch the news, when you hear the news, when you talk to friends, and the plight of our Kashmiri brothers and sisters and Muslims in India, when it bothers your heart, when it bothers your soul, and you want to do something, when the difficulty of our Palestinian brothers and sisters, when you hear about it, when you think of it, I want to do something. There is an envelope on each table. There are several multiple envelopes on each and every table. Grab one, hold on to it till I tell you a short story at the end of my comments. But I come from Virginia. In last election, Virginians came together. I visited many fundraising events, supported multiple candidates throughout Virginia, especially Northern Virginia. Engage was front and center in that activity. Get out the vote, fundraising. And inspiring Muslims to register and get out. Today I'll briefly mention there are 3 Muslim delegates in Virginia Assembly. Because of that organization, there is 1 Muslim woman in the Senate of Virginia. First time in the history of the United States, first time a Muslim woman is senator in the Assembly of Virginia. This doesn't happen without efforts, without organizing, without getting out, without asking friends, not only just Muslims, but your neighbors throughout the community, outside the community. It is doable. It is doable. Virginia is proof of that. Make sure that you remember from now up until every year, because this is not a one-shot deal. Repairing our nation, its values, its legal system, its institutions of rule of law, will take, after this election, will take a while to repair. Remain engaged, remain awake, remain aware of your role. Be aware that it was our complacency that gave us Trump. We were not as proactive as we are today. I have traveled throughout the nation and I continue to travel. I used to practice law and I do most of this is pro bono. Yesterday, last night in Fort Lauderdale with Engage was my 268th speaking engagement. Today is 269th engagement. You know why I do this? I tell you a story and I'll end my comment and I'll let you fill those envelopes. Take them with you. Do it now or do it once you're at home. I end most of my comments, especially to the Muslim gathering, with this fable, with this story of fire of Namrud, King Namrud. He was a cruel and worse king. It is said that when he did not like those who were against him, he was habit of burning them. He was very upset that why people are not supporting me, why they are not all with me. So those who were against him, he said that burn them, set up the fire and burn all of them. So the big fire was set up and around the good people that lived there. And the fire spread and got to the forest, and the birds flew from their nests and they took shelter at the bank of the river. Birds are gathered. One small bird, probably by his behavior I could tell this was a Muslim bird. This bird looks at the fire and decides to do whatever was within his capacity, within its capacity. Goes to the river, picks up a drop of water in its beak, flies to the fire and drops it and comes back. He's constantly doing that. The other birds are laughing at him and say, wait a minute, you're one little drop. What difference would it make? What difference would it make? And they ask the bird, say, wait a minute, you're being unrealistic. And this little bird says, no, I'm not being unrealistic. I know that my drop of water may not make much difference. You know why I am doing this constantly? He says that when I stand in front of myself, when I look at myself in the mirror, and when I stand before my Creator, before my God,
Wow.
I will be able to say I did my part.
Come on, brother.
I want each and every one of you to look at your children, to look at your family and think, have you done your part? Are you doing your part? Henceforth, remember this example of this little bird. Your constitution, your state, your country, your rule of law looks up to you. Other communities have gone through the difficulties. It is Allah has placed us, our Creator has placed us in this difficult moment for a purpose. And that purpose is, it is a test of our dedication, it is a test of our loyalty. Make sure that you make Muslims proud, you make Muslims come ahead, you make Muslims be the difference makers as other communities have done.
That's right.
I recently read a wonderful book. It's not in my comments, but it is from the heart. It's about my African American brothers and sisters. When they had moved from the south to north, the name of the book is Green Book. I think there is a movie also that has been made on that story. It's written by a postal worker in New Jersey. When it reminds us the difficulties that our great nation has faced, yet has remained together, and we all have to help and support and stand with one another so that we can make our country better. So half of the family was in south, some had moved to north. They used to come to visit their family in the south. This book was written by this person who had traveled a couple of times, listing his experience, in which he gives the direction. He says, when you travel to south, make sure you have enough gas in your car, because no one will sell you gas once you get to south because of color of your skin. Make sure you take enough food with you when you travel to south, because no store will sell you food when they look at you that you're not their kind. And when you get too sleepy and you cannot drive, no hotel will give you room. Go knock at the door of the funeral home. Funeral directors, funeral homeowners, where most of them were African Americans, they will let you sleep so that you can then next morning move forward. Look at the difficulties that our wonderful African American brothers and sisters have gone through. McCarthy era, think of that. I recently became aware of, somebody was mentioning to me, have you looked into the percentage of this hate in America? The size of the population. I was surprised, and I want you to, those who have time and resources, want you to look into this. 30% of America was with McCarthy, was proactive, supporting him, chanting with him, marching on Pennsylvania Avenue in support of McCarthy. 30%. It is exactly the same 30% that stands with those who hate others today. Same number. Therefore, it is up to the rest of the 70%, rest of us, we are part of 70%, and I have met most of the 70% throughout the nation that is ready to make the change, that is ready to do their part. Let's join them, let's be with the majority, let's do our part as a Muslim community, as community in Florida to make the difference, as Virginians have made the difference. It is doable. I am proof of that standing before you. History is proof of that. Last election is proof of that, that it is doable. Let's do it now, and let's do every election, let's do that. Don't forget just to do it once and then not to do it every time, every year. Organize, register, inspire your neighbors, inspire your family to vote, because you want to make sure that when you stand before your Creator, you will say, yes, I did my part. When I was troubled because of the Uyghurs' treatment in China, when I was disturbed by the treatment of Rohingyas, when I was disturbed by the treatment of Kashmiris, by the treatment of Muslims in India, by the treatment of Palestinians, and by the treatment of Muslims in the United States, I did my part, and I have not slowed down. I will quietly continue to do my part. Let's do that. Those envelopes that are sitting in front of you, make sure that you do your part. Thank you very much.
So before we end our evening, I hope many of you are motivated by our honored guest, Mr. Khan's speech, and I hope that we all leave here trying to do our part. I just want to share something small from yesterday. My sister and I, my younger sister Nida and I, had the pleasure of taking her uncle from the airport to where he needed to be dropped. And in hearing some of his personal stories, and you heard his speech now, it just really struck me that sometimes you are put in situations that you weren't expected to be. Allah maybe put you in a situation that you didn't ask for, and you have a choice at that point to make a decision on how you will act. And I think the speech epitomized that Mr. Khan is doing his part, and he really is, you know, the voice out there for our community. And I hope that you all are leaving here inspired to do your part. So now, with that note, I'd like to call up Wael and Afifa, our Florida chair, to come and conclude the evening with our fundraising.
So Wael, we have a challenge here.
What's the challenge?
So nobody likes this part.
Really, nobody briefed me on this, by the way. Okay, what am I doing?
You're locking the doors.
Okay.
I'll get to them.
I saw a lot of great kids who are organizing, so I'm sure they can escape these. Okay.
Yeah, right? Oh, yeah, okay. But that's the best part, right? We'll put kids there. But guys, very frankly, very seriously, if you're not inspired by that speech, I cannot match that, right? So, come on. While I will let you do the hard work, because, you know...
Yeah.
No,
Just,
go ahead.
no. You know, I think this is the first event the Tampa folks here are doing in the city. I think this, first and foremost, the most important thing is that you guys get to know Engage, get to know what we're doing. Remember, 1 million Muslim votes this year. That's what we're focusing on. Proper professional issue advocacy and supporting candidates that really uphold our values and our interests as Americans and as Muslims. I am very proud to let you know that when I started with Engage, we had no national chapter. We had no office in DC. They didn't really tell me this when they hired me. I came from the State Department. I think, well, it used to be an elite, among the elite of the bureaucracies in our government. And Engage did not have an office in DC. We have our chapters. But one of my first priorities was recruiting other leaders. And I formed a leadership team. People who can lead our organizing, our communications work, and our advocacy. Today, the national office has 10 employees, self-funded. Yes. Here's why I'm telling you this. Most Muslim organizations in the space are running with about 1 or 1.5 staffers. There's a few national organizations, we know them, but just beneath that, it's usually a bunch of board members and 1 or 2 staffers. I just described to you guys the issues we're trying to work on. If you think that you can end the Syrian civil war or end hate crimes in America with 1 or 2 staffers, then you know, we're going to have the same conversation 10 years from now. The fact of the matter is that our organizations need professional staffers. And that's what Engage focuses on. We're not a board-run organization, with all due respect to our board members. We require professional staff that we hire who conduct the work. And our goal this year, as an organization, is to reach $2 million in funding. And don't be scared. Your portion of that is only going to be a half of it. No. But to let you know about the growth we've experienced. In 2017, when I took over as CEO, our national budget 3 years ago was $700,000. This last year, we just broke 1.5 million. We doubled our income. We are projecting this year to break probably 2.5 million, depending on how the year goes. This organization is growing. Open Society Foundation has made a decision to provide us with $1 million grant. We gotta show them that our community can match that, because that's the kind of organization we are. Open Society is not gonna invest in you if they don't think that you have potential, that you know what you're doing. Now we gotta show them that our community believes in the vision as well. So whatever you guys are capable of doing, what we want you to do is be sustaining members. We're not interested in just meeting you here and having you support us just today. That is absolutely not what we want. It's a journey that we need you to join us on. So whatever you can give on an ongoing basis, so we can support a growing list of organizers and effective advocacy. So when I come back 6 months from now and 12 months from now, there's 1, 2, 3, 4 staffers here. We're helping the wonderful board and our executive director, Yemen, who's in Orlando. Yemen can't come here and do the work every day. It's impossible. I can't. You need your own community here, and your own representatives to work for Engage. If these issues are things you care about. And so I have, mashallah, as they say, our community has plenty of resources. I have seen it. We spend, as a community, hundreds of millions of dollars on humanitarian aid that's going outside of this country. You guys know that, and we should continue. But are we investing a portion of that in preventing, in getting our own government to pony up some of this aid money on our behalf? I work at the State Department. The State Department and USAID have billions of dollars to spend on projects abroad. Our advocacy can channel some of that money to the issues that we care about. I don't know how many schools you can build in Bangladesh or in Pakistan or in Syria on your own. Some of you have. I've seen it. But one grant from the federal government can take care of it for you. For years. We got to engage them effectively. Use us, people who've come from that world, who knows how to engage our policymakers, whether in Congress or in the executive branch, who can show the power of our vote to do the right thing by us and the people we care about. That's really, the most important message to you guys. We're looking for a partnership, and we appreciate anything that you provide, which will go directly into hiring full-time staffers here. That's what it's going to go for. So that's, I don't know if you want me to do a dance or anything, but that's, I think, the best thing I can tell you.
I didn't know you can dance.
I can't. I can, but I won't do it. So, there is our C3 and our C4. We have both. We have a 501c3 nonpartisan, engaged foundation, which focuses on get out the vote and education, civic education. We also have a 501c4 issue advocacy organization. All of you from the mosque communities and Islamic centers, we get very afraid, right, of doing lobbying and hosting candidates. Well, Engage Action, our 501c4, is a full-time lobby organization. Full-time staffers in DC, and our staffers here, because we have the legal entity, can engage on those issues as well all the time. We have that ability to do it legally. So your contribution to the 501c3 will support nonpartisan activities. It's tax deductible. If you want to contribute to the 501c4, it is not tax deductible, but it gives us a lot of leverage in how we spend it and what we use it on. Our hands will not be tied behind our back when we want to lobby on an issue. That's what these two squares are for. You can check which one you want to contribute to.
We have kids. If you guys can raise your hands, where are you guys? They're just getting around, but you do not have it. Okay, yeah. So if you do not have it across on your table, just get it from them. Like this is from this.
And only those who contribute get cake, by the way.
Yeah.
All right, I'm just making sure you know.
So just to give you guys a comparison, in 2018, SEIU, the organization that I work with, is a labor union, spent $16 million in the state of Florida alone in election work. Like, you know, so nothing else, just pure electoral work, right? Engaged budget here in the state of Florida is $350,000 in comparison, right? We have organizations like ACLU that spends like millions of dollars. We do not have lobby money as such as Muslim community. So when we are talking about issues, the GOTV work, just consider in comparison where we are in terms of that power dynamics, right? The work that we are doing within these limited resources is inspiring. The work that we have done on all the issue advocacy work or GOTV work, and 26% increase in the Muslim voter turnout in 2018 alone, it's inspiring work. The work that we are doing now with Florida Muslim Capital Day, Brother Samir from MDF is here. Thank you for all of your support with a bunch of Muslim organizations, getting kids from like different high schools and stuff, and Muslim activists and leader to Tallahassee is inspiring, because we are talking about the safety and security of Islamic school and masajid. We know that's an issue that we are facing. We are talking about funding for free healthcare clinics that Muslim doctors have established. Those are the issues that we talk about in Tallahassee, along with some other issues that our partners are working on. So these are inspiring issues that we are working on, but we need your support. This money will be going to civic engagement work, specifically in your community. In Tampa community, we need those resources. Yeah, we are trying to get a staffer here in Florida so that Minal and Tasneem and Saima, all of those inspiring work, Brother Mubarak, I can see him right now, that they are doing, they have some support on the ground to do that work, the more advocacy work.
I want more people to manage. That's my goal. I'm a bureaucrat, so just give me more people to manage.
So all of that, these resources will be going, and I always question myself, right? You know, as Simon said, these are very personal reasons for us. We're doing it for our children, right? The safety and security of them, like growing up Muslims in America and being proud. So those are critical issues. So just think for a moment, what does that worth to you, right? If it's worth 5,000, worth 10,000, it's worth $1 million, or there's no number that we can assign to them, right? We're not announcing how much people are writing on the envelopes. There is a reason we're not doing it. Because $25 is still critical, because it might mean more to you personally, right? So any number resources, and as Wael has said, should I say that? We have raised 25,000 already. We have, that's awesome. So let's make it, let's put another 0. 0 does not have a value, right? So let's put another 0, and whatever you guys can do, and as Wael has said, be sustaining members. And that's more critical. For my organization, for instance, SEIU in particular, the resources that we generate are generating from janitors and custodians and bus drivers that are working in various school district and municipalities, those city workers. And they do not make much, but they write checks to us every single month that's $10 and $20, and that's worth a lot.
Standing here is getting me a lot of thoughts. This is good. Yeah, I should do best of my thinking. So, one of the things that I noticed when I was at the State Department, that our community was spending a lot of money abroad. And I mentioned how, well, if we just engage our government better, we can use a portion of our own tax money to support the causes we care about. It's just better investment. It's our money. So, what's really important at this point, guys, it's 2020. Trump got elected. I don't need to say more than that. Things are not good in that sense. It should not have happened, but it did. Okay. When we are contributing to causes, just ask yourself, am I playing defense or offense here? If there are, I'm Syrian American, trust me. There are catastrophes happening today in Syria that need money today. They need help. Same thing in other parts of the world. So that's going to happen. But what are we doing to, I mean, we're Americans, part of a superpower here. What are we doing to get our country to do the right thing here, at home and abroad, to mitigate or prevent some of those bad policies? What are we doing in advance? So when we're making a contribution to feed or to build a school abroad, we should make sure that we're investing a percentage of it in better policies emanating from here. Some of you are in business, that's how you got to do it, right? You're diversifying what you're doing. You're looking for the long term and the short term, and you're being proactive. When other organizations come to you and say they are working on policy, please be inquisitive a little bit. Ask them, how exactly are you doing it? And there are some great ones out there, and I'm happy to talk to you about who they are. And Engage will not say any bad things about anyone else, by the way. It's not how we work. But when it comes to policy and political change, just figure out a little bit, how are they going about it? And I'm proud that Engage asked that question and has pretty good answers for it. The voting, engaging on issues that can move in the legislators, for example, and vetting and supporting candidates who are actually going to act and behave the way we want them to, or at least not in a detrimental way. So I think that really the team here, you guys have done an amazing job today. I'm really proud of the fact that we have such a wonderful group of volunteers, board members, and actually, I just want to say I'm so happy that the leaders of the board here are women. It must be said. It must be said. And that's something that Engage prides itself on. 70% of our staff.
That also means men need to catch up.
You know, they've had a lot of time. They've had a lot of time. So, anyone interested in joining our local boards, volunteering, working for Engage here or in DC at our cool office, come talk to me. So it's not just money here. If you have talent, skills, data, communications, marketing, HR, law, those are all things that we need. Policy and money. Okay, thank you so much. And Assalamu alaikum.
Thank you. And just a couple of things. So just to inspire you further, if you are still thinking how many zeros you need to put behind those numbers. So when our brother Coral Wahid, who is the founding member of Engage, also was running in Coral Springs, we had the whole Republican Party met in Coral Springs to come up with strategies on how to defeat it. We still do not have any Muslim elected to any office in state of Florida. We need to do that. We need to change it. We need to make Muslims be accepted in Florida in electoral positions stuff too. So whatever you guys can do will be appreciated.
Thank you, Wa'al and FIFA. So that concludes our program tonight. Thank you so much for coming. We want to thank our esteemed guest, Mr. Khizr Khan, for his wonderful speech. Thank you all for taking the time, and please be on the lookout. If you have not heard from Engage Tampa yet, you are not on our mailing list, please make sure you reach out to someone. I hope that you registered your email when you checked in today or when you bought your tickets, but there will be plenty of events for political candidates, for getting out the vote, for voter registration, and we need everyone in this room to participate. So please reach out to us if you want to get involved locally or on a national level. Damiz, Basim, Saima, Muhammad, or Sul, you can reach out to any of us and we will plug you in. So we hope to see you at future Engage events this year. Thank you. Assalamu alaikum. Good night.